welcome to the 650th Media Wiz video, and well, you'll notice that the list we're doing this time is top 10 worst movies talked about on Blockbusters Show. Because last one was top 10 worst things reviewed on Media Wiz. It expanded long past one specific medium. It was movies, it was TV shows, it was video games, it was music, web content. It was a whole plethora of different things. So this time around, I wanted to talk about worst movies on Blockbusters Show because I noticed that I talked about plenty of bad movies there, so I thought, why not actually go through the trouble of going through each of the movies I've talked about and do a list about those. Me and the others over at Stress Room Podcast, you know, Shannon, Kat, Patrick, we talked about doing this as a group, and we were talking about maybe doing it as part of as an actual Stress Room episode like last time. But unfortunately, you know, people have different schedules, personal stuff came up, so I figured might as well just do this myself. This is a bit of a different format compared to some of the other times we've done this, so who knows, maybe next milestone video will be like this too, or maybe we'll return to format and, you know, we'll do it as a group again, depending on how things look next year. But yeah, going into this, I had a couple of general rules for myself. Everybody else did write lists, but again, unfortunately, because scheduling conflicts, I don't know, maybe that will be something we talk about on Stress Room eventually, but for the time being, I had a couple of guidelines, the big one being nothing that isn't movies, because Blockbusters, first and foremost, is mostly a movie review show. So, you know, the few times I've talked about anime or, you know, did like a book review for the Francis of the Filth book, or a couple of video game reviews. Believe me, if video games were included, I probably could have put Plumbers Don't Wear Ties on there, but, you know, I decided it should mostly be a movie review list, so it's just mostly going to be movies. And I also didn't want to include stuff that wasn't really a review. Like, I didn't want to do movie marathons, because that would just add even more movies to talk about. I feel like, for the most part, the movie marathons are pretty self-contained. I feel like those are kind of their own thing. Usually I rank which ones I like the most and which ones I disliked the most at the end of those videos. So I wanted to focus primarily on episodes that were straightforward movie reviews. I combed through them and I did write a list out, but and there's a bunch of dishonorable mentions we'll get to. Honestly, I have seen so many bad movies for Blockbuster Show. I could have made this top 70, or at the very least, maybe top 30. Yeah, we'll get to dishonorable mentions by the end of this. This is going to be top 10. However, I did want to add these two movies as potential 11 and 12 spots on the list, just to get these movies out of the way. I really wanted to include Battlespace and Reverend I'm Available, the two movies from Maverick Movies. Both of them are stupid shot-on-video movies, but the reason I didn't put them on the actual top 10 list was because, as bad as they are, part of me just kind of feels sorry for them in a way. I mean, Battlespace was somebody's passion project. You could definitely tell that somebody had been writing a sci-fi story since high school, and maybe at first they wanted it to be a novel, and then they just decided to jump and make it into a movie. And while it is very amateurish, I always do have this kind of respect for people who, you know what, they actually went ahead and they made a movie. Even if the movie's not very good, they still went ahead and had the initiative to do it. Bully for them. Like, I can't possibly take that away, and I don't think anybody should. So, you know, Battlespace, while it is a very lackluster sci-fi movie, I would say it's still better than Reverend I'm Available, which just feels like a group of church-going people decided one day, hey, I have this idea for a movie. It could be kind of funny. Let's make it into a movie. And the plot of that one was, it was a reverend whose wife died in a car accident. And so then 3 women who were in attendance at his church separately try to form relationships with him, and it quickly gets sexual. Both these movies are pretty bad, and there's lots of stuff that you can laugh at with them, but I ultimately decided to keep them at the relatively low spots on the list because while they're bad, I mean, I didn't really expect anything from either of them. They were both bad enough to make the bottom of the list. They just barely etched out of the top 10, but I still didn't feel right putting them on the official top 10 list, so that's why they're both at the number 11 and number 12 honorary spots. because they're both bad. If you want to pick your poison, you can watch either of them on YouTube, Battlespace and Reverend I'm Available, as well as Reverend I'm Available 2. There's a sequel. And I'm probably not going to do a review on that. I watched the first one. I think I could pretty much piece together how the second one's going to go. And if you look up Battlespace on YouTube, you can find Battlespace along with the making of documentary, which honestly I think made points of that movie go up just a little bit, but it doesn't stop how a lot of the movie is just kind of crappy. I mean, the acting alone. You have a serious moment where main lady is like in the middle of a space battle and one of her compatriots ends up getting shot down. She goes, no, damn. Like, it has no emotion. So like I said, both these movies are pretty bad, but yeah, they're not top 10 material, but they just barely etched out. But enough of the build-up, enough talking about Reverend I'm Available for the millionth time. Let's get to the list proper, shall we? Okay, number 10. This is one of the two cheats where you have two movies sharing the same spot, but since it's a movie with a sequel, I figured it would be appropriate to do it. Both of these movies look like they should have gone straight to video, but unfortunately they didn't. We have Baby Geniuses and Super Babies Baby Geniuses 2. These were the last movies made by Bob Clark, who a lot of people cite as being the director of A Christmas Story. But he also did a bunch of other stuff. He did Christmas Story, he did Black Christmas, the original, the best of the Black Christmas movies. He did Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, he did Porky's, he did a bunch of different movies. And I guess the older he got, he ultimately decided he wanted to make a family picture. And what we got is probably some of the stupidest kids movies we've ever seen. Like, I mean, these movies, they suffer from, the premise just isn't that interesting. I mean, it's been done a million times over. Oh, what if babies were super intelligent? I mean, hell, jump forward a couple of decades, they made Boss Baby, and that got a sequel. And I've seen both those movies once, just out of sheer morbid curiosity. I don't think those movies are very good, but compared to this crap, at least those are well animated. I mean, these other movies, oh my god, the production value is so bad. And it's funny because when I was writing this list, I was listening to Double Toasted, and they did bad movie roasts on both of these Baby Genius movies that went to theaters. And one point that they had was, well, in the first movie's case, some of the production is pretty good, some of the special effects. I'm like, I have to sincerely disagree. I think the special effects in both these movies are pretty bad. It's weird. The second movie has kind of better effects than the first movie, but the first movie looks more like a theatrical movie. Again, not by much, but it feels a little bit more like a movie that would go to theaters compared to the second one. Like, the first movie at least has, back when these people were still big, you had Kim Cattrall, you had Kathleen Turner, you had Christopher Lloyd, you had Peter McNichol when Ally McBeal was still going, I believe. The second movie, the biggest name they have is Jon Voight. And even then, I think Jon Voight was slowly going down in popularity around that time. This was 2004, I believe. Everybody else is like, oh, they got Scott Baio, and they got Vanessa Angel. It's like, Vanessa Angel, how do you go from Kingpin and Demonic Toys versus Puppet Master to this? But both these movies, yeah, what if babies were super intelligent? It was the plot of the first one. The second one continues that with, what if babies were superheroes? And, by the way, the second movie, despite that being the alleged premise of the movie, they really don't do anything with it. I mean, the babies turn into superheroes in like the middle of the movie just to show off this invention that can grant people's greatest wishes or whatever. And then they turn into superheroes at the very end. So even if you were going into it like, oh, it's a family movie, a fun little comedy about babies that turn into superheroes, that's not even what the movie's about. In the first movie, it does look a little more cinematic, but it has the worst elements of movies from around that time. It's got the wide-angle lens crap, and it's got the Dutch angle shit, the terrible comedy relief with, you know, someone getting bonked on the head, or people doing backflips, or, you know, oh, they make Dom DeLuise pick his nose, because I guess babies can mind control people. Just everything about these movies. I think if you're going to watch one of these, maybe the second one's a little funny bad, because Jon Voight is acting crazy and he's doing a bad German accent. That's a little funny. But otherwise, these are just dreadful family comedies. These are so bad. They're poorly made. They're not very impressive in terms of the production. The concepts aren't even all that interesting. And apparently they're making more of these. They're going straight to video now. They've gone the way of the Air Buddy sequels from like the 2010s. I think Jon Voight's producing them now, which wouldn't surprise me. And I also found this out. The blonde-haired girl that's in the second one, apparently she's related to Jon Voight, which is why she also pops up in some of the straight-to-video sequels. So there you go. It all comes full circle. Number 9 is another terrible family movie, and this one I'm putting on there for personal reasons. Number 9 is Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul. As I said in the review, I grew up watching the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, and I'll freely admit to you right now, they're not great movies, okay? Even as somebody who's nostalgic for them, they're not perfect, okay? They got some dumb jokes in there, they got some overacting. The main character really does border unlikable, sort of like the books. But in the same way, a lot of people who read the books kind of liked the movies because it had a lot of that kind of offbeat kind of humor to it. A lot of the stuff that was in the books was carried over to the movies. And then you get this fourth one where, because everybody was older, there's no way they could have made another Wimpy Kid movie, because Zachary Gordon, I think, was the kid that played Greg in the first 3. He was older at that point. He was older by the time they did the third movie. His voice was way deeper than when they did the first one. And they were making those like year after year. That went from like 2010 to 2012, I believe. So then you jump to this movie. This movie came out in like 2017. They tried rebooting the franchise where you have a bunch of different actors and almost nobody looks the same. As evident by the slew of #NotMyRoderick comments, because yeah, they really did a disservice. And no offense to that actor, man, he was trying. The problem is they gave him really terrible material, and he was replacing what a lot of people say is the character who is the fan favorite. Everybody loved Roderick. So, yeah, they really mishandled Roderick in this movie. They made Roderick dumber. He's not dumb, he just plays dumb so that other people do things for him. But in this movie, like, he doesn't know what cosplay is. Like, he doesn't know how to use a microwave. And the dude's supposed to be like a high school senior, even though at that point in time he probably should have been in college. But the plot to this one, it's basically a Goofy movie. The plot is they go on a family road trip. You have all the stupid road trip family movie cliches. They end up getting chased by some rednecks because Greg keeps inadvertently getting tied up with this bearded guy who keeps coming across them. It's like they conveniently keep stopping at the same motels and truck stops and stuff. And the thing with this movie, and I feel like they did this because they got a bunch of backlash from the other ones, they didn't make Greg as much of a douchebag this time around. In the other movies, yes, he does a lot of really terrible things. He's a very self-centered character. He probably should learn more. But in this movie, they just kind of made him generic main kid character. They kind of toned down the selfish egomaniac tendencies. And in this movie, he just feels like generic kid, and his whole arc is that he wants to go to this VidCon type convention where there's some famous Let's Player, live streamer guy, like not Markiplier type guy, and he wants to do some kind of collab with him because Greg is like some meme where he because the opening of the movie has them at some Chuck E. Cheese type place, and he ended up stepping in a diaper or getting he got his hand stuck on a diaper, so then it became an internet meme and he became called Diaper Hands. Oh man, people keep calling me this name, and yet there's never any point in the movie where they go somewhere and people, whether it's one person or a large crowd of people, go, haha, that's the Diaper Hands kid. It's like, it feels completely unrelated to the rest of the movie, and yet it's the motivating factor when halfway through the movie he changes the route of where they're going, so instead of going to Grandma's, they go to the convention. There's a stupid scene where they're in the middle of the woods and the car gets stuck, so the dad tries peeling out, but a bunch of mud goes flying onto all the family members. It has that stupid cliche that I hate where the parents are like, oh, we're gonna unplug for this week. Come on, we're getting back to nature. We gotta do more family bonding. And then there's a scene where the dad has to do a business call, and the wife, who weirdly enough is played by Alicia Silverstone, I mean, I never really thought she was amazing or anything, but man, how desperate do you have to be in this? And again, she looks nothing like Rachel Harris, the mom from the first 3 movies. They couldn't even give her like a wig to make her look like a brunette, like the mom in the other ones. But of course, there's that scene where the dad's on a business call, and it's like he has to step away for like a minute to answer this phone call, and right away she's just like, "Oh, typical. You don't care about this family. You're always obsessed with work." And it's like, this was like the first time he did it in the movie. It's like the only time he did it in the movie. It's like, hey, have you considered that he needs to answer this business call so he can continue to have a job so you guys can go on your stupid family vacations? And I guess the lesson of the movie is it's all about family, and that's what makes it so powerful. Because at the end of the movie, Greg ends up bonding with his mom. And again, that feels so secondary. You look at the other movies, which again aren't perfect, but at least with those movies, you had it that the first movie's about his relationship with Rowley, second one's about his relationship with Roderick, third one's about his relationship with his dad. And in the third movie, there was more of an effort to have him and the dad become closer, and even though the end of the movie has them bonding over their mutual dislike of stuff, like the stupid comic strip that kept popping up, or their dislike of how their camping trip went, you know, there was sort of like a connection in their own little weird, wimpy kid kind of way. This movie didn't really feel like it was even warranted at the end. It's like, oh, I guess they're closer. I guess. It's like, it didn't feel earned at all. So, yeah, this was the final nail in the coffin for live-action Wimpy Kid movies. After that, they all became animated and they went straight to Disney+. So, yeah, this is easily the worst of the live-action Wimpy Kids movies. Hands down. Okay, so number 8 was a serious toss-up of what was the worst animated movie on Blockbusters Show. I really had to rack my brain around this one, and this is one of the 2 ties that I had to put in there. For worst animated movie, I've seen a lot of bad ones. You know, I didn't really like Quest for Camelot. Secret of NIMH 2 is a terrible sequel to an amazing movie. You know, there's lots of bad ones. The Wild I wasn't crazy about, but it was just a movie I'm like, I just didn't care for it. But I knew, when I was coming through these, I knew these 2 definitely had to end up on the list. And I'm like, you know what? If they have to share a spot, screw it. My number 8 goes to Felix the Cat the movie and Bobbleheads the movie. So that way one can represent bad 2D animation and one can represent bad CG animation. Felix the Cat the movie is one of the most annoying animated movies I've ever seen in my life. This movie is just non-stop noise. It is just everything's moving, everything is talking. There's just constant movement and motion and noise. And you have ugly colors. It looks like everything was colored with highlighter pens. It's like these weird off-brand neon colors. And everything's just constantly flailing around and moving, and it really is the equivalent of just dangling keys in a baby's face for an hour and a half. You get that stupid CGI Felix head that shows up that, you know, oh, so you're probably wondering how I got into this little adventure. Well, let me tell you. And right there, that's another one of the many problems. Felix is not an interesting character. I mean, even maybe back in the old days, you know, in the silent film era, but jump forward, I mean, you know, characters like that, like your Mickey Mouses, they were at least being updated for like the late 80s, early 90s crowd, so they can appeal to a new generation. But Felix the Cat didn't really have that. Even if this movie was their attempt at trying to do that and bring Felix to the late 80s, early 90s kids, it's just, the movie was so bad it didn't even help in that department. You know, the character is just pretty one note. He feels like every character that was around during the old black and white cartoons, you know, the, oh gosh, and golly gee willikers, oh! Like that knockoff Mickey Mouse kind of stuff. And I know this was in one of the Felix the Cat cartoons. I think it was the one that was airing around that time, that this movie is supposed to be in connection to, where you have these 2 scientists, like I think it's like a father and a son, or like maybe uncle and nephew. But they're trying to get Felix's magical bag of tricks so they can study his magic. And that right there feels like the premise for the movie. But unfortunately, they have to connect it to this stupid interdimensional travel stuff where they end up in this magical land that is just filled with these like weird nonsensical creatures. And there's the princess who, despite the fact they say that her parents are dead or missing, she has to be princess because she's the cutesy princess of the story, and she has an evil uncle who wants to take over the land, and he looks like a knockoff Mysterio from Marvel Comics. The one thing I can give this movie, the one thing, and it's a very minor thing, some of the music is good. That's the reason this movie's not higher on the list. Some of the music was okay. It has like that kind of like 80s synth rock going on in it. I'll take it. But everything else, the movie is just so annoying with everybody nonstop talking, everything, just even in its own seriality, nothing makes sense. Even if you're going to do a movie that's like this weird and out there, go David Lynch with it. But the movie just feels random and stupid. And speaking of stupid, you got the other movie that's in the number 8 spot, Bobbleheads the movie. I'll say this, animation-wise, it's kind of better than the animation company that did its last movie with Food Fight. It looks better than that, but that's Food Fight. That's not saying much, is it? The movie itself, like going into it, I was like, okay, I heard a lot of people say this is bad. I heard people say it's kind of like a knockoff Toy Story. That's kind of the vibe I got from the trailer. But watching the movie itself, man, oh God, it feels like nothing happens for a majority of this movie. And that's going to be a common complaint with a lot of the movies on my list, actually. But for the first half of this movie, it's just the characters messing around the house once the humans leave. And then eventually they have it that the owners of the house, like the father and husband of the house, has a brother who he's kind of estranged to because he stole their dad's bobblehead collection. This is all said in exposition dialogue. This is not shown. For a movie called Bobbleheads the Movie, we only really have 4 bobbleheads that we're following. 5 if you count the big celebrity cameo of the movie, which, again, was not impressive. But yeah, we have these 4 generic bobbleheads. You got Skater Girl, you got Baseball Player, you have a Persnickety Cat, and you have like this vaguely anime robot girl. And all of them are just annoying. Everybody seems like they legitimately don't like each other. What a lovable ragtag team of characters that I don't care about. And then the brother shows up, played by Luke Wilson, oddly enough. But it looks like they designed that character as if they wanted him to be voiced by Larry the Cable Guy or something. And he has a wife played by Jennifer Coolidge. But they show up, they want to steal the cat bobblehead because he's apparently super valuable. And you know, after just what felt like an hour of them just dicking around in this house, Jennifer Coolidge is trying to backstab Luke Wilson and take the bobblehead for herself, make duplicates, and become like a millionaire or something. So then the bobbleheads, after getting advice from the big celebrity cameo of the movie, which was Cher, again, in 2020, Cher is your big celebrity draw. It's like, shit. It's like, it was more impressive they got her to be in Stuck on You, and that came out in like the mid-2000s. And even then, her celebrity was kind of waning at that point, but it's especially waning here. The big celebrity draw of this movie was Cher. Okay. But yeah, Cher shows up, and she tells them that, because all throughout the movie they're debating what Bobblehead's true purpose is. And she comes from some Bobblehead High Council that makes the rules for bobbleheads. Bobblehead High Council, that sounds like that could be something you could make a movie out of, but no. But she shows up to them and she tells them, oh, the point of bobbleheads is to bobble and bring joy to people. Again, in 2020, and it's not to shit on bobbleheads, you know, bobbleheads, they're cute, I guess, but it's like, in 2020, do people really still care? It probably would have been more novel back in the 80s when they originally wrote this. I mean, going into it, I was expecting it to be just a terrible ripoff of Toy Story or something, and it essentially is, but even for crappy wannabe Toy Story or even like Lego Movie ripoffs, this is shit. This is really bad. So, yeah, just Felix the Cat, Bobblehead the Movie, they're both bad. I mean, Bobbleheads the Movie is more boring compared to Felix the Cat, but they're both bad animated movies. It really was just like racking my brain as to which one to put, and I'm like, you know what, screw it. They can both share a spot. Next up, we have the worst comedy I ever had to sit through for Blockbusters, and this was a hard one to figure out. I mean, I've sat through bad spoof movies, bad quirky comedies from the 90s, bad comedies from the 80s. I've looked at a lot of really bad comedies all around. But the more I sat there and thought, well, did I hate anything more than this? And while a few movies came close, I decided, no, this is the worst movie. Number 7 is Yoga Hosers. Yoga Hosers is by and large, I think, the worst Kevin Smith movie. I mean, even Cop Out, I wasn't a fan of, but Cop Out just kind of felt like generic studio comedy to me. I mean, I didn't really laugh at that, but that felt more like a real movie. Yoga Hosers doesn't even feel like a real movie. Not even a bad streaming movie. I mean, I watched it on Netflix at the time, and I remember thinking, this doesn't even feel like a bad movie that would be on Netflix. This feels like a YouTube skit that was dragged out to an hour and a half. And then every once in a while you come across the half-hearted defense of, well, you know, they had fun making it. It's like, well, good for them. I wish I had fun watching it. Oh, well, it's not made for the viewing public. It's made for their friends and family. Then why release it at all? Everything about this movie felt like this shouldn't have been released to the public. It's like, if they wanted to make a movie and, you know, every once in a while put it on and laugh at how stupid it is, fine, but they put it out there. People had to spend money to watch this because it was put out in theaters for a limited run before they dumped it on Netflix. And yeah, I mean, Kevin Smith, I think, has even told stories about how he felt so bad that people spent money. He actually gave them money back. This was supposed to be part of Kevin Smith's Great White North trilogy. After he did Red State, which, again, movie I wasn't crazy about, but I appreciated things about Red State. It was a well-made movie. I appreciated him trying to make a more serious movie instead of doing a horror comedy. But then he just went right back to the basics with Tusk, which not crazy about, but Tusk, in its defense, still better than Yoga Hosers, because at least Tusk has a beginning, middle, and end. Yoga Hosers feels like it takes an eternity, and then in the third act it becomes a completely different movie. Sort of like Bobbleheads the movie, except this one's live action. And this one is filled to the brim with lazy Canada stereotypes. So yeah, hey, I hope you don't get bored of jokes about them saying a boot and sorry a lot, because that's basically the whole movie. As far as I can tell, this movie was supposed to be a starring vehicle for Kevin Smith's daughter and Johnny Depp's daughter. But you know what? In the defense of Lily Rose Depp, she actually proved that she can act, and she can actually be in real movies like Nosferatu. And Kevin Smith's daughter, I'm sure she's a nice person, but man, the only backhanded compliment I can give them is that they have chemistry. But the only reason that they have chemistry together is because they've been friends since high school. So nothing about this movie really feels like, oh yeah, these two random people, they were paired up in a comedy class and then they just gelled. It's like, no, they've known each other for a very long time. That's why they work well together. It's just these two characters' daily lives. They go to school. They're not super popular. They get made fun of by the mean girls. They go to yoga classes because, again, in real life, they're really into yoga. They work at the convenience store from Tusk. And again, that's where a lot of the lazy Canada jokes come in. You know, they say sorry and a boot. And, you know, oh, there's jokes about hockey sticks. And then after a while, they're like, well, shit, this needs to be a horror comedy. So they throw in all this shit about, oh, the store was built on top of this lair of this evil Canadian Nazi who, in a flashback, we see is played by poor Haley Joel Osment embarrassing himself. And then these little sausage Nazis that look like they're straight out of a Full Moon Pictures movie, which is just Kevin Smith in a big sausage costume with like Nazi, uniforms on, running around, and then the Colleens beat the shit out of them. Johnny Depp, continuing his annoying character from Tusk, shows up again, but he has even more of a role in this movie than he did in Tusk, because he shows up periodically throughout this movie, and ooh, he was probably the worst thing in Tusk. He is just one of the many bad things in this movie. So he's annoying, and they're kind of annoying. Eventually, the Bratzies, as they're called, they show up, they fight them, then they're brought in by the cops, and then Johnny Depp bails them out, and then they end up going into this hidden Nazi lair where there's this guy who's running the whole thing, and he's like I forget the actor's name, but he's like an impressionist who does voices over for Family Guy. And again, it just feels like the whole movie was just Kevin Smith going, oh, well, you guys love doing these things. Let's just make a whole movie out of it. My daughter loves doing yoga. Let's have several scenes where Justin Long is a yoga instructor and they're doing yoga poses, and we'll find a way. We'll try to crowbar in jokes around that. Hey, you and me do a podcast together. Hey, You do voices, you know, despite the fact you're supposed to be a stereotypical evil German Nazi guy, how about you just do a bunch of funny voices and impressions because you like doing that? These are all things that I love. Let's just make a whole movie around that. And that's the point of the movie where, even compared to other Kevin Smith movies where he does that, this movie felt like it had no direction whatsoever. And oh my god, like, this is, like I said, this feels like it's all the worst elements of other Kevin Smith movies cranked up to 11. And the worst thing about this movie, you got cameos from legends in here, man. You got a horrible Stan Lee cameo, and you have a terrible cameo from poor Kevin Conroy, who they make him do the Batman voice. And it was around that point I was already not liking the movie, and then when it got to stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is just depressing now. This is sad, this fucking movie. Next up, we got number 6, which is sort of in the same vein as Yoga Hosers, but I didn't want to make this a shared number again, so my number 6, Thanksgiving 3. Hey, you remember that stupid movie about the turkey puppet that went around killing people? You said gobble gobble, mother effer. You remember that? Well, guess what? Oh, they made another one, but they didn't make the sequel they promised about the turkey going to space. No, the plot to Thanksgiving 3 is about Turkey trying to harness some kind of demonic curse from the last copy in existence of Thanksgiving 2 so he could take over the world. That's the plot of Thanksgiving 3. You know, added with a bunch of other annoying characters and a bunch of try-hard acting and dumb puppets that feel like they were going to be part of other movies that the creators were like, no, let's put it all together in this movie. I mean, what else are we going to make them for? And fill it to the brim with, like, really try-hard, look, we're being meta, look, we're being self-aware. Oh, man, we know we're making a stupid as hell movie. It's funny, right? And I've said this a million times over, bad movies are funny when the people who are making it are taking it seriously. That's why The Room is one of the best examples of a so bad it's good movie, because Tommy Wiseau was so dead set on making a real movie, and the end result is just so weird and otherworldly. That's what makes it entertaining. When you have people who are quintupling down on, yeah, it's stupid, we know, we're in on the joke, it's like, okay, this is getting insufferable. It's like the Sharknado sequels. It's like, okay, Sharknado when it first came out, haha, Sharknado, that's really funny. But this shit here is just like, okay, I get it, I know, you're making a dumb movie on purpose. It's not funny anymore. And just, everything is just so weird and random and stupid. And the first Thanksgiving's not a very good movie either, but that was simple to follow. Okay, it's a horror comedy about a turkey that's going around killing a bunch of dumb high schoolers on Thanksgiving weekend. Okay, I get it. Even if it's not very good, I get it. This movie just feels so self-indulgent and, oh, we're making such a stupid fucking movie, isn't it funny? It's like, after a while, it just became agonizing. And I just could not wait for the movie to end. And it's like, okay, this is stupid, this is stupid, this is stupid, this is stupid, please end already, God. And then when it finally ends with sequel bait, I'm like, screw this, man, I'm done. I am done. And it's funny, because for a while, I totally forgot about this movie. But then when I sat down to rewatch some of the reviews to help jog my memory, I was like, Thanksgiving 3, I think I remember not liking this one. And then when I watched the video, right off the bat, I could tell I wasn't happy about it. And then as the review went on, I was like, oh God, that stupid shit was in that movie, right. And by the end of the video, I said it was one of the worst. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, that's definitely going on the list. So yeah, Thanksgiving 3. If you thought Yoga Hosers was bad, it's like Thanksgiving 3 saw it at the bar and said, hold my beer, I got this. So, yeah, that's number 6. Number 5 is yet another horror-related one, except this one's not a horror comedy. At least I don't think. Now, Yoga Hosers, Thanksgiving 3, those are both bad, but this one tries to kind of take itself seriously, and the end result is what I like to describe as a movie that is kind of like if you took Evil Dead, you had it made by the guy that made Manos: The Hands of Fate, and you also made it super Canadian, which is why my number 5 is Things. Things is a movie I saw floating around a bunch of bad movie review channels. I saw Red Letter Media talk about it. I saw Brandon Tenold talked about it. So I inevitably got curious, like I always do when it comes to these kind of bad movies. I'm like, whew, this one looks bad. I kind of want to watch it for myself and see what I think of it. And, ooh, rest assured, Things is pretty bad. Mostly because it's incredibly boring. It's very apparent that this was a couple of Canadian guys, very Bob and Doug McKenzie-like, if you will. They wanted to make a movie similar to Evil Dead, because all throughout the movie they keep referencing, hey, this is like that movie where all those people go to that cabin in the woods and all the evil stuff starts happening. It's like Evil Dead mixed with a creature feature, because there's these things that are running around the house, the titular things, which are basically just like giant insects, like giant ants, because the house has some kind of demon curse put on it by a mad scientist who wanted to use some kind of demonic curse to impregnate his wife because he wanted children, and there's a weird pseudo-sex scene / striptease at the beginning of the movie with a lady in a devil mask that looked like it came from Turkish Star Wars, which isn't on the list, by the way. Turkish Star Wars is entertaining. There's no way I was going to put that on here. But this movie, for the most part, it's just dull. A lot of the movie is just long stretches like Manos the Hands of Fate, where people are just wandering around, stopping to look at things. There's several scenes where it's people going to the fridge just to get some beer. You see them drinking the beer. There's a part where they stop to make sandwiches, and it looks like they don't even put anything in between the bread for the sandwiches. They make bread sandwiches. That's it. And then the movie kind of picks up as it goes on, but just barely. I mean, there are several times where the characters are like, oh man, there's something weird going on in this house. Let's go to the basement to see if there's anything down there. Why? Why are these characters just doing this stupid shit? Oh look, great, now one of them's dead. Or severely injured. And then scattered in between, they apparently got some porn star who I'm assuming they met at some kind of convention, and then they filmed all of her scenes in like a back room or a closet somewhere. Like, looks like an AV room for a high school or something. But she's supposed to be like a news reporter, and I guess what she's saying is supposed to coincide with what's going on in the main plot, sort of. I don't know. Believe me, this kind of like, I don't know what's going on, that's gonna continue on throughout a majority of the top of this list, because like, I couldn't follow a lot of stuff that was going on in this movie, simply because it was boring. It's only going to get worse from there. But yeah, I heard Things was bad. I was expecting it to be bad going in, and what else can be said? It's a terrible shot-on-video knockoff of Evil Dead made by a couple of Canucks. What else is there to say? Number 4, yet again, another movie I heard about through many, many different reviews, and after watching it for myself and doing a video on it all the way back in early 2020, I knew this was definitely going to make a worst of list if I ever did one, and sure enough, it's in the top 5. We got bad movie classic, Garbage Pail Kids movie. Now, I didn't grow up with Garbage Pail Kids. That was a product of the 80s. It was obviously meant to be a gross-out parody of the Cabbage Patch Kids. So it was one of those things that was well before my time. I've seen people review this movie. I've seen some people say it was the worst film they've ever seen. And so I kind of got curious. I was like, okay, I'm expecting it to be bad. How bad could it be? And that's how I end up talking about a lot of movies for this channel. I heard a lot of people say Shark Attack 3 was bad, but I also heard people say Shark Attack 3 was funny bad. And I had a blast with that movie. I thought it was a very entertaining bad movie. But this here, when people say this is one of the worst films ever made, they ain't lying. If this is on the top 100 worst movies on IMDb, it's 1000% justified, man. This is a fucking terrible movie. It's very apparent this movie has tonal issues. It's very apparent this movie was originally meant to be a horror film, but then they decided to rework it into a kids movie because the cards were marketed towards kids. And I still maintain, if they want to redo this movie as a horror film, you know, we're living in a generation where they're taking all these old IPs that go into the public domain and making them into horror films. If they want to do that with Garbage Pail Kids, I'm 1000% on board. I want to see what they could do with that. I think the Red Letter Media guys were onto something when they talked about that in their review. But yeah, it's on the surface, it seems like just a very standard generic kids movie of, you know, put upon kid. I guess he works in this junk store, and you know, there's a secret garbage pail that's locked away that ends up getting knocked over and opened, and while he's getting punked out by the local bullies who are like 20 to 30 years older than him for some reason, and seem to hate his guts despite the fact that the kid did nothing to them, and the kid's not even rich, so there's no reason for these bullies to go after him. They can't go after anyone their own age. what? But, you know, they're messing with this kid, and then ultimately the Garbage Pail Kids show up to help him. And from there, he befriends these things. And what the movie's trying to do, it's trying to have the ugly duckling lesson, you know, about inner beauty, and beauty is truly in the eye of the beholder. But the Garbage Pail Kids characters aren't likable. They're not lovable at all, which on some level I want to commend them for, because it's like, yeah, even they were like, no, you're not supposed to really like these guys. I mean, they wander the streets at night, you know, Greaser Greg pulls out like a flick knife, and, you know, they go around threatening and beating up other people. There's the scene in the bar where they start fighting, and then because the bikers there are like, whoa, hold on, these guys got guts. Drinks for everybody! It's like, oh, okay. What? And then halfway through the movie, because a lot of it is relating to the kid and his relationship with the female bully who's slowly developing feelings for him, / emotionally manipulating him so that she can get dresses made by the Garbage Pail Kids through him. This is so stupid. This is too stupid for words. Halfway through the movie, they introduce this whole concept of, oh, stay home for the ugly. Yeah, it's this place where they round up ugly people and put them in cages and eventually kill them. What? Where did that come from? Oh, it's a crucial part of the movie now. It came totally out of nowhere. There was no build up to that. No mention of it at the beginning. Just, oh my God, thinking about this movie is pissing me off. And, you know, the characters, like the actual Garbage Pail Kids costumes, if it was a horror movie, they would have succeeded, because those things are hideous. Like, they're really ugly, and they're not likable. They're not even like, you know, likable asshole characters. They're just kind of annoying. Every single one of them has this like voice, and it's like, oh God, just whatever. This is one of those movies where it's fun to watch people talk about it. Like, I occasionally go back and watch the Red Letter Media video of this movie, because first of all, it's great background noise. Anything from Red Letter Media is like perfect to listen to, especially when you're working. But, you know, on top of that, this is just a movie where it's like, yeah, really trying to break this movie down. Oh my God, what is wrong with this movie? I do recommend, there is a making of documentary of Garbage Pail Kids, and they talk about like, oh yeah, originally we wanted to make it a horror movie, but the studios kept opting to make it a kids movie. That documentary comes the closest to explaining everything that is wrong with this film. But it's a movie that's fun to talk about, but it's an absolute slog to sit through. It's not a fun, bad movie. It's just like sitting there, it's just like, oh my God, like, this is real. This is real. People actually sat down to make this. Oh God, holy shit. So, yeah, it was a toss-up between this and a couple of other movies, but ultimately I was like, going back to rewatch the review for this one, I was pretty mad at the end, so I was like, yeah, that's definitely landing high on the list. That's definitely going in one of the top slots. So, yeah, Garbage Pail Kids. Now we get to the top 3. This was the easiest to do, because when I was making this list, I had to go through each of the movies I reviewed for Blockbusters, and I was like, okay, the good movies, or the movies that I liked, they were easy to do away with. It's like, all right, too good, not bad enough, I like that one, harmless. Then you get to the bad ones, it's like, okay, this is really hard. The top 3, easiest to pinpoint for me. But surprisingly, in the top 3, this is the only one that's a big budget movie. This is a big studio film. It's from a named director. It's based on a beloved franchise. And boy howdy is it one of the biggest blunders in cinematic history. Even to this day, we got, at number 3, The Last Airbender. I've talked about a couple of M. Night Shyamalan movies on Blockbusters Show. I talked about Lady in the Water and Happening, but The Happening is a perfect fun bad movie. That movie's hilarious to watch with a group of friends and make jokes. And Lady in the Water, that's another example of, okay, yeah, you made this movie for your kids, but did you have to make it into a full movie where you charge the movie-going public actual money to see this in a theater? But I think, just like Yoga Hosers with Kevin Smith, I think it's fair to say this is probably M. Night Shyamalan's worst movie. I mean, even After Earth, which came after this, that has some fun bad moments in it. This movie is just, it's a bad adaptation of a beloved show. It's a bad movie, period. It's not a good action movie or a good fantasy movie. A lot of people have summarized it as being, you know, a great example of trying to cram too much plot into one movie. They tried to, I think it was they wanted to do the first season in one movie, Either way, they really mishandled everything from the original Avatar Last Airbender show. I mean, you know, the pointless name changes, the weird race swapping, the really bad acting. I mean, like, M. Night Shyamalan movies progressively, he's gotten worse at directing actors over time, but this movie is, this and The Happening are tied for, like, they have, like, that weird, like, hey guys, I'm reading the lines like this. Everyone just talks like this, and the camera's super close up on them. Oh man, what are we supposed to do? There's, like, a few times where they do that in the movie, and you're like, ugh. Like, it's unnatural. Like, nobody talks like that. This is especially evident in the scene that I always think about when it comes to this movie. There's the earth is a part of who you are, when Aang, or Ong, convinces all the earthbenders to rise up. And, you know, you got 5 guys doing the Macarena so they can make, not even a giant boulder, but like a relatively big rock, just bonk a guy in the face. It's like, it's silly. And I've talked about this with other bad fantasy movies where it's like, oh, well, we wanted this to be more realistic. You know, it's a fantasy film, but we wanted this to have a sense of realism to it. It's like, ding, 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 that's your problem. It's a fantasy movie. Why would you try to make this more realistic? It's fantasy, numbnuts. They sucked out all the comedy from the original show, because that was one of the things, like, Avatar The Last Airbender and Teen Titans, the original 2000 show, those were really good mixes of, you have serious character drama and intense action and fight scenes, but you also have some pretty good comedy. So it's like the show kind of evens out and has a perfect mix of everything. But in this movie, they basically sucked out all the comedy. And the comedy that is in there, the few times that it's there, it's terrible. Like, the part I always think of with that is, you know, they're running around and some guards are chasing after some kid, and the kid hides behind the main characters, and the guards are like, oh, that kid was bending stones at us from behind a tree. It really hurt. It's like, first of all, not funny. Second of all, these guards are wearing armor. Like, these guards are wearing armor and a couple of rocks, like a couple of stones being plucked at them. That's enough for them to make them chase after this kid. Oh my god. And the story, it's just like this horrible Frankensteining of multiple episodes, plots into one. And then they had the audacity to end on a sequel cliffhanger. It's like, nope, this is not getting that. Thank God it didn't. And I remember when this movie came out, I didn't see it in theaters. I remember when it came out, so many people across the board. You had fans ripping it apart, you had critics ripping it apart, you had general moviegoers who some of them knew about the show, some of them didn't know about the show. This is just one of those movies where it's so bad it brings people together on, you don't even have to be a mega expert on the original show that it's based off to know that this is just plain and simply not a good movie. So, yeah, hands down, I'm gonna say it. You know, maybe M. Night Shyamalan's made bad movies since, but I'm confident in saying Last Airbender is his worst movie. Number 2, this was way too easy for me. I knew this was definitely making top 3, if not top 2. So, yeah, number 2 for me, Shark Exorcist. This comes from closet pervert director Donald Farmer, who seems to make a plethora of bad, low-budget horror, borderline fetish films, I guess. From the title, I was like, okay, it's a dumb shark movie with some exorcism themes thrown in. How bad could this be? Or at least, let's see how cheap this could be. And oh my god, even in the realms of bad, low-budget shark movies, this takes the cake, man. This is, like, astonishingly bad. This movie, I guess, focuses on an evil nun who resurrects an evil demonic shark, which then possesses a blonde girl when 3 girls go sunbathing at this lake that they keep calling a beach for some reason. Blonde girl gets possessed by the shark. She keeps luring in people into large bodies of water and killing them and then feeding on them because she's possessed by the shark, I guess. In between a bunch of scenes of women just rolling around on the ground and writhing, acting like they're getting possessed, but they look like they're having seizures. There's this lady who's part of this ghost hunting program called Ghost Whackers, and there are several scenes of her rolling around like she's getting possessed. And then there's like these weird teenage girls, or like maybe college student girls, who go to a cemetery in one scene. I don't think we ever see them ever again. And then it all cultivates at the end of the movie where, because there was a carnival in town, they could easily just film there for a couple of minutes. So you see one of the girls' douchey boyfriends get attacked by the shark lady, And then they tie her down, they try to do an exorcism. A shark comes out of a supernova in the sky and then I guess attacks them. And then we jump forward to some other lady who's going to the same beach area where for 3 minutes there's a perv who's like taking photos of her while she's sunbathing and she doesn't seem to notice this. And then she's about to get attacked by the nun from the beginning of the movie, but then the girl that she allegedly killed at the beginning of the movie drags the nun down into the water, so you think she's dead. Then we get like a good 5 to 8 minutes of a girl wandering around some aquarium and playing with plushy sharks, and then it ends with implying maybe she's possessed because she looks at the camera and then the screen turns red and it looks like she's supposed to be like spitting out some kind of like bile or vomit or whatever. That's another one of Donald Farmer's fetishes all throughout this movie. Lots of women spitting up orange juice that's supposed to be vomit. And then we see the ghost whackers lady again. Like these are all like mid-credit scenes, but there's like 8 of them, and it's like, oh my god, please just end. The movie is so low budget, it barely feels like a shark movie half the time. It barely feels like an exorcism movie half the time. It just feels like this guy made this movie as like some kind of closet way for him to make a borderline fetish movie so he can spank it while he was editing the thing together. And then, oh, give it a title like Shark Exorcist. It's a low-budget shark exorcism movie. Everything about this movie pisses me off. I hated this movie. I heard about it through a couple of other people's reviews, but I was like, okay, this is one of those examples of a movie where when people say it's bad, don't watch it. Like, I'm telling you right now, even if you're morbidly curious from everything that I just described, don't watch this movie. And that's number 2. Here's number 1. Number 1 on my list for worst movies I ever reviewed on Blockbusters. After last season. This movie definitely takes the cake for movies I have no idea what they were trying to accomplish. And you know what? That was kind of part of the mystique of this movie. I heard about it through Spill.com's worst movies of 2009. And then a couple years later, it started popping up in a couple of reviewer circles. You know, I think Ralph the Movie Maker talked about it, Red Letter Media talked about it, a couple of others. And people say it's one of the worst movies ever made, if not the worst movie ever made. You got some people saying it trumps Manos in terms of worst movie ever made because of how boring and how nonsensical it is. And you know what? I'm willing to agree with that because Manos the Hands of Fate, as dragged out and as boring as it is, has a plot. You may not like it, but it has a plot. This movie, there are so many theories as to why this movie exists, and like that's what's more interesting about the movie. It's not the movie itself, it's the theories that are built around it. You have people who debate if this movie is some kind of money laundering scheme. You have people wondering if this is some Andy Kaufman-style troll movie where it's meant to mess with the audience and that's where the humor comes from. You have people debating if this is just some pretentious crap that an art house student made. It's just one of those movies, it's hard to describe. I don't know how to describe this movie. Shark Exorcist, I could describe what happens in it. This movie, I can only describe key scenes because trying to make any kind of sense of this film is an absolute journey in and of itself. I mean, right off the bat, this feels like a pretentious student film because we're supposed to be in a hospital of some kind. There's supposed to be a room with an MRI CAT scan machine, but it's obviously like a refrigerator box that they just stapled a bunch of paper onto. It's very apparent. But then, you know, then you start to get to the scenes where you just show corners of a room or like corners of a wall and it just lingers on them for minutes at a time. And it's like, oh no, yeah, now we're getting to Manos levels, man. Now we're at Manos levels. And the acting, like I said, very Birdemic quality. I mean, the 2 main leads in this, like the romantic leads, I'm just going to call them Rod and Natalie, like I did in my review, because they're pretty much like Rod and Natalie from Birdemic. They kind of look like them too. They're like younger. It's like if Birdemic was rebooted. They kind of look like a reboot Rod and Natalie. Kind of like the second movie did. The first half was just a bunch of scenes of characters kind of getting introduced and talking to each other, where you have stellar dialogue like, hey, have you ever been to this town? Well, I can't say I've been to it. I've driven through it, but I've never been to it. It's like riveting. Super riveting. I feel like Steve Martin. You just want to say, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener. But that's like the first half of the movie is like stupid dialogue like that, where you have characters who are, they're supposed to be going into, I guess, an apartment building so they can get to their homes, but it looks like they're filming in like an abandoned industrial factory, and it's like, where are they? They plug in these diodes to their foreheads, and then the movie just jumps into what looks like screensaver footage. You have shapes floating around in some kind of like blank void. You have like shapes bouncing off of each other. You have them colliding with like straight lines and stuff. And this goes on for half an hour. This goes on for 30 minutes. And this is one of the few movies where in Blockbuster Show's history, I had to start skipping. I was like, okay, how long does this go for? Is this like 5 minutes? Okay, it's over 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Oh my God, this goes on for 30 minutes. I was just like, skip, 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 skip. I am not sitting through this whole thing. And then I guess they awaken some kind of memory of a woman who was killed, and then the killer just happens to show up in the real world, and then I guess a ghost shows up and stops the killer because there's like a chair that like knocks him out. I guess there was a ghost operating the chair. I don't know. If this movie ended with a clown crying a single tear while flipping a pancake in slow motion, would you really be surprised? I mean, that's what this sounds like. Like, if you haven't seen the footage of the movie, that's what this kind of sounds like, right? But then there are people that theorize, like, oh, maybe this is like an Andy Kaufman-style joke on the audience. Maybe this was made to be bad on purpose. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, because there's stupid shit in the movie, like, there's a scene where a guy is walking into the facility, he walks up to a wall that has no door, it then jump cuts, and he's all of a sudden in the building. And then later on in the movie, they actually do show somebody opening a door and going through. So it's like, what was the point of that? What did that accomplish? Like, this is not like nitpicking. This is like basic level stuff here. And then when the movie ends, it's like, was that even real? Was that a thing that I just sat through? I feel like I left this plane of existence, entered this false reality, or I envisioned something. I got the perfect way to describe this movie. You know how in the back rooms, they say that the world of the back rooms, it's like it's trying to replicate reality, but it replicates it wrong? This is like if the realm of back rooms tried making a movie. It's like, you know, the world of the back rooms tried to replicate a DVD of an actual film, but the end result is a DVD of the movie as is, and everything just feels so off and wrong. That's what it feels like. It's like if a movie actually came from the world of back rooms. You look at guys like Ed Wood and Tommy Wiseau and James Nguyen and Derek Savage. You look at directors like that, it's very apparent that like they either have delusions of grandeur, they think they're better than they are, or they're visionaries, they're just kind of blindsided by their own faults. You know, but with this movie, the director of this movie after last season, we don't really know. As far as I can tell, you know, unless more information has come out about him, you know, as of now, I don't think we know that much about this guy or what his intentions were. Was he trying to mess with the audience? Was he trying to make a real movie? The world may never know. And that's why After Last Season is my #1 worst movie on Blockbuster Show. The other movies, like Shark Exorcist, you could easily figure out why that movie is made. It's very apparent. Donald Farmer wanted to jerk off to something while editing it together. But After Last Season, I can't figure out why they made it. So yeah, like it's the movie's an enigma wrapped in a riddle. It's like you want to analyze the movie, you want to study it for science. You're like, what is this? Why was this made? But anyway, so yeah, that's the main list. I'll barrel through some honorable mentions, movies that came super close to making the list, but inevitably got beat out. We got terrible spoof movies like Meet the Spartans and 50 Shades of Black. I was super close to making 50 Shades of Black my #7, but I'm like, no. I just kind of hated Yoga Hosers just a little bit more. Just by a belt notch that's like, it eked it out. And Meet the Spartans, I mean, it's the one Seltzerberg movie I reviewed. Of course that was going to make an honorable mention at least. Under the Rainbow, horribly mean-spirited comedy film from the 80s where the whole joke is little people are different. And it's just like, you know, you guys know me. I'm not the PC police. I'm not the kind of person to freak out just because something is offensive. You know, if it can be funny, it can be funny. You're looking at somebody that still laughs at South Park. But it's like, Under the Rainbow, it just felt mean-spirited. It's like, there was nothing funny about it. And speaking of the one Happy Madison movie to make the dishonorable mentions, Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star. This movie was not only horribly unfunny and a blatant ripoff of Orgasmo, but I love the fact that when this movie came out and got shit reviews, in a year where Happy Madison had 4 movies, this one was debatably the most hated, next to Jack and Jill, but that one was more talked about. Bucky Larson was so ripped apart by critics, and then Nick Swartzen had the balls to go out and say, oh, people just don't understand comedy. People went in wanting to hate that movie. It's like, even if that is true, and to an extent I get it, yes, you can't compare movies like The King's Speech to Bucky Larson. Bucky Larson's still a terrible comedy, even for Happy Madison standards. Nuki, the worst E.T. ripoff. I mean, I reviewed Mac and Me. Mac and Me is a hilariously bad movie. That movie is fun to make fun of. Nuki is like the yang to Mac and Me's yin. It's like, this is an E.T. ripoff that's not even fun. You know, you got stupid talking animal sidekicks, you got annoying characters, the characters all throughout the movie act like morons. The biggest question is, Nuki can fly, but he spends most of the movie, wandering around the outskirts of Africa with these 2 kids. And eventually, when the kids get separated, Nuki goes, oh, we can fly. Well, then why didn't you do that earlier? I was debating to put this at number 4, but I had to seriously sit there and think, like, which did I hate more? And Garbage Pail Kids just barely eked it out. Again, I was debating putting them at equal, but I was like, no, I don't want to put too many shared spots on the list. Swiped, that was a terrible... It felt like Derek Savage tried to make a movie about dating apps and hookup culture, and the movie just feels incredibly out of touch. I mean, like, it marketed itself as this, like, super feminist movie, all the while the movie just constantly finger waggles at both young men and women that are into hookup culture. It has terrible dialogue like, wow, that's like 8th level feminism. It's terrible dialogue, terrible message. And besides that, the whole movie just feels like the poor man's attempt at making a version of The Social Network. But instead of Zuckerberg stealing Facebook, he somehow created a hookup app where you could be super anonymous. It even does that thing that you see in cheap movies where they're recording outside and the wind is ruining the audio. Like, and just to think, this was on Netflix. This was on Amazon. It's like, this feels like YouTube student film quality. But it was made by a woman who was like over middle-aged, I think. Let's see, Biodome, another bad comedy. That and North were super close to making the list. The thing with Biodome and North was, again, when we were debating of doing this for a stress room video, the other guys actually had some of these movies on their list, so I didn't want to copy anything. So yeah, again, if we inevitably do a stress room video where we go down those guys' lists, we'd probably go into more detail of movies like Biodome and North. Speaking of comedy wastelands, Norbit and 1,000 Words. 1,000 Words starts off like a terrible Liar Liar ripoff, and then halfway through the movie, it becomes this weird, like, spiritual journey where Eddie Murphy has to, like, apologize to his late father because his late father was never there for him. Totally confused movie. And it's super obvious that movie was shelved, that movie was supposed to come out, like, 5 years before it was inevitably released in 2012. Because they make a bunch of dated 2008 references all throughout, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's not obvious. And Norbit, I mean, it's Norbit. That movie definitely lives up to its title of Crack House movie. Like, I keep seeing that term being thrown around for movies like that, and Cat in the Hat, and Son of the Mask, other movies that probably could have made this list, or made some of the other guys' lists over a stress room, but yeah, Norbit, I mean, it's another Eddie Murphy fatsuit comedy, and Eddie Murphy is super annoying, and you got a toxic relationship played for laughs, where you realize that if the genders were reversed, it would have been portrayed as a straight-up horror film. But hey, isn't it funny that an overweight woman played by Eddie Murphy is torturing a skinny nerdy guy also played by Eddie Murphy? And Eddie Murphy does his ad-lib thing all throughout the film where he just keeps talking super fast. Isn't that funny? No? Well, apparently Eddie Murphy will tell you because he pulled a Nick Swartzen just a couple of years ago and said, people were wrong, critics were wrong about Norbit. But whatever. Kim Possible, the movie, 2019. I would have put it on there, but that's mostly just for personal reasons. As a fan of the original show, I feel like they just did the show dirty. But, compared to Last Airbender, that went to theaters. That was way tremendously worse. But I still felt like I wanted to put Kim Possible 2019 in honorable mentions because, yeah, I did not like that movie. Hot Pursuit. This would have made the list, but I was like, let's see. I think I had more of a personal hatred for Diary of a Wimpy Kid Long Haul, so that's why I didn't put it on there. But yeah, needless to say, Hot Pursuit, and also FML, which I maintain is the worst Internet People movie I've ever seen. That's one of the few things the 2020s are doing right. We're actually getting good Internet People movies between Iron Lung, which wasn't great, but it was okay. Obsession and Backrooms, those are good Internet People movies, but FML, it's a stupid road trip comedy featuring two guys from David Dobrik's friend group, the Vlog Squad, filled with cameos from people like Bart Baker, of all people. But between that and Hot Pursuit, Hot Pursuit was another bad buddy comedy between Sofia Vergara and Reese Witherspoon, and guess what? They have about as much chemistry as Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart did in Get Hard. They even resort to the same tired shtick that was old even back in the 80s, which is there's a scene where they have to get into a two-person animal costume. It's not a bull or a cow, no, it's a deer this time around, but still, that movie, stupid as all hell. But yeah, because I had more of a personal vendetta against Diary of a Wimpy Kid 4, that's what just barely eked them off the list, but they're still in dishonorable mentions. Marmaduke 2022, horrible animated movie, but I hated Bobbleheads the movie more, and that was already a shared spot with Felix the Cat, so wasn't going to share it anymore. But yeah, Marmaduke 2022, awful. You just go watch my review, or anyone else's review of that movie for that matter. It's easy to see what that movie did that was horrendous. And lastly, the worst Christmas movie I've ever talked about for the holiday season, Santa's Christmas Elf Named Calvin. I mean, I was debating maybe putting Rhapsody Street Kids or Christmas Tree, but it's like, no, Rhapsody Street Kids is interestingly bad, and Christmas Tree is hilariously bad. Santa's Christmas Elf Named Calvin, it's none of those things. That movie is an hour and a half long, and it is so boring because they pulled Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, and a majority of the movie is done in slideshow. So instead, it feels like the whole thing should have just been an audiobook. But for some reason, they released it in God knows how many theaters. And you know what the least surprising thing about that movie is? It's from the same people that did that stupid Santa Claus Meets the Ice Cream Bunny movie. Either way, yeah. It was bad, but I was like, does it really count? Is it enough to make the list? I don't think so, so yeah. But again, dishonorable mentions. It made it there. So that does it for worst movies reviewed on Blockbusters Show. And going forward, we've got plenty more videos in the works. There's going to be more Media Wiz. There's going to be more Blockbusters. Obviously, more Out of the Loop, more Swig a Song parodies, more fanboy reviews, and Planet Goofball skits and Megacorp skits. And I also wanted to say a very sincere thank you for 2,000 subscribers. Never thought we'd get there, but hey, look at us now. SAS Productions has crossed that milestone, so not only have we made it to 650 and probably more Media Wiz videos down the road, but we've even made it to that many subs, so I sincerely thank all you guys. So that does it for this video. Look forward to more videos down the line. Yeah, these movies suck.